It's been almost 7 years since George W. Bush left office, but the memories of all the unaccountable crimes the Bush administration have left a deep scar that's impossible to ignore. And despite the media allowing Bush and his cronies to boast about their legacies, some academic institutions are holding these otherwise untouchable figures to a much higher standard. See, Rutgers University offered former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice $35,000 to speak at this year's graduation ceremony. And in response, the Rutgers Faculty Council passed a resolution calling on the school to rescind its invite. Well, earlier I spoke with one of these faculty members, Professor Prof Bell, and I first asked him why the faculty voted to oppose Rice's commencement speech.
Faculty Council felt that this was an extremely inappropriate person to honor at commencement with an honorary degree, as well as to have as an uncontested speaker due to two primary issues. One was her involvement in telling untruths that led up to the war in Iraq, and the other is her deep co-involvement in what she preferred to call enhanced methods of interrogation, but which are in fact methods that are condemned as torture by multiple international groups.
And would you have similar objection to anyone from the Bush administration speaking at Rutgers graduation?
Mostly I would, and certainly it would be easier on the protest movement I'm co-involved in leading if it were Donald Rumsfeld, because he'd be an elderly white man like me instead of a younger black woman.
You said that Rice would be allowed to speak at other events, but not graduation. Why is graduation different?
Graduation is not an opportunity for the exercise of academic freedom. It is a moment when we honor the graduates who have worked 4 or more years for their accomplishments. It should be a time of coming together and of celebrating, and especially a controversial speaker, in my judgment, is not appropriate for a graduation commencement. I prefer poets.
How are students reacting to the faculty's resolution?
Well, I think students have a great many things to do, and we are getting a substantial number of supporting emails. There is a controversy going on in the student newspaper right now in letters to the editor, and I think there are students on both sides of the issue, as there are faculty.
Sure. Well, State Assemblywoman Mary Pat Angelini called your vote appalling and an embarrassment to New Jersey, and said that the vote was nothing more than a demonstration of the faculty's hatred of the Bush administration. I wanted to get your response.
Oh, I would be glad to debate with the Assemblywoman about that at any time. I respect that people have strongly differing opinions, and that is exactly the reason why we shouldn't have controversial political persons as commencement speakers.
And you've also received flack from Sean Hannity on Fox News about your so-called liberal intolerance. He tried to get you to admit that you would allow Obama to speak at Rutgers commencement. Do you think that that was a fair question, and would you protest the president speaking as well?
I think the question is entirely appropriate, and my answer was that so long as President Obama was President of the United States, by reason of his office, that is, ex officio, he would be welcome as a commencement speaker. It is my general view that persons who are currently holding elected offices related to Rutgers, which is a state university. So I'm perfectly happy to have Governor Christie come and speak, or either of our senators, or any of our congressmen, whether they be Republican or Democrat, but that's because of the office that they hold. Once they're not in office, or certainly if they're running for office, that's not appropriate for commencement. The other 364 days a year, that's fine.
And let me ask you this. Let's say next year, a couple of years from now, obviously when Obama's not in office, I mean, would you approve of him speaking then? Because, I mean, as we know, he's continuously approved drone strikes in sovereign nations. And is that a disqualifying factor to speak at a graduation?
I think more broadly, the drones are very troubling, but more so than the particulars of the choice of using drone strikes, which certainly seem to violate the rights of somebody, is the question that political factors intrinsically are divisive, and they belong on campus in a setting where there can be questions and answers, not on the commencement platform.
And you've mentioned multiple times that this is, because this is why you shouldn't have controversial political figures that are out of office. How does this go beyond politics, though? Because, of course, another Rutgers professor is claiming that students are losing out because the faculty just wants to make a political point. I was wondering if you can expand why this goes beyond just that.
Well, it is my view and that of more than 350 faculty who've signed the petition drive that I am involved in, as well as the overwhelming majority of the faculty council, that the place at which to have discussions of political issues of the greatest import, including drone strikes, wars in Iraq or Afghanistan, is in an academic setting where there is at least an occasion for question and answer, and often a setting where people of different viewpoints each give their presentation. That's what academic freedom is all about.
Do you worry at all that this decision could set a precedent that could hamper intellectual conflict in the future? I mean, I guess, where do you draw the line, and how does that consensus occur?
Sure. We are planning a teach-in, and the teach-in will examine the career of Condoleezza Rice, particularly during her time as National Security Advisor, and I believe that is the kind of occasion to which she would be welcome, incidentally, if she wished to come, that ought to be at academia.
So what are the next steps to prevent Rice from speaking at Rutgers?
Well, our main goal was never, at least we never expected to achieve, the goal of preventing Rice from speaking at Rutgers. And we are not interested in major demonstrations that would interfere with her speaking at the commencement itself. We are interested in education. Our students, the four-year BA students, were about 10 years old when Condoleezza Rice was in power in the Bush administration. They really don't have much sense of history, or let me put it this way, I welcome their having more sense of historical reality.
That was Rutgers University professor Prof Bell.